Investor Jim Rogers made his big bucks predicting the start of the commodities boom in 1999. Now he's making another big prediction, betting on a rebound in Chinese stocks. In a CNBC exclusive, Jim Rogers talked to me earlier today about his investment strategy and the overall health of the Asian economies. Jim, you've been living in Asia now since September. Have you seen any impact to the economy in Asia as a result of the U.S. slowdown?
Well, the main thing has been real estate. For instance, a lot of people who thought investment bankers were going to be coming to some of the Asian cities aren't coming now, and so real estate has slowed down. And in China, people who deal with Walmart or Sears have certainly noticed that something is wrong, and they've cut back a lot.
Now, the Asian markets have been down. Some of the markets in Asia, as well as in the Middle East, actually, these stock markets that ran up so high over the last couple of years are now coming back down to earth. What's that reflecting?
Well, in China, what it's reflecting is that they had too much speculation, and the market ran up too far, too fast. I started buying China again about a month ago. We'll see if I'm right or not, because it went up too far and went down too far, in my view. But some of these other markets aren't affected too much at all. Taiwan, for instance, is going up near its all-time highs, within 10% of its all-time highs. So some Asian markets have suffered, some haven't.
So if you were to put money in the stock market today, globally, where's the best placed?
In my view, Taiwan and China. I would put it in Taiwan and China. That's where I've been putting money. We'll see if it's the best place or not.
What about Europe? What are you hearing in terms of the slowdown there? A lot of people expecting Europe to take a cue from the U.S. and start weakening in a big way, particularly led by real estate.
It is starting to happen, and particularly in the U.K., and particularly in the Netherlands and Ireland, Spain, places that had a big real estate bubbles. It is happening. And the U.K., of course, has become so dependent on the stock market now, and the U.S. stock market especially, so the U.K. is already starting to suffer.
What about the U.S. stock market? How would you characterize the environment here?
Well, it's still too high as far as I'm concerned. Some stocks went down a lot, as you know, but the overall average is down 6%. I mean, it's not down very much at all. So I'm surprised that it hasn't gone down more. I haven't been buying or selling in America. I've just been sort of standing pat. I think the recession is going to be worse than we've had in a long time. So I'm surprised the market hasn't gone down more.
So you're saying basically the stock market is not reflecting the real fundamental story here?
But what I see is a real fundamental story, but maybe I'm wrong. One of us is wrong. It wouldn't be the first time I've been wrong. It wouldn't be the first time the stock market's been wrong either, by the way.
You've been certainly right on commodities. Let's talk about that. Recently, a lot of talk about whether or not this is a bubble situation in commodities. All sorts of commodities. Food, water, metals, oil, obviously, and other energy going higher. Is this sustainable
I've
from
been
here?
hearing about the bubble since oil was $30. I've been hearing the bubble since corn was $3. People have been calling it a bubble a long time. But, Maria, there is no supply. I don't understand how it can be a bubble if there's no supply, first of all, of anything, none of the commodities. And second of all, most people have never bought a commodity. There are only something like 50 or 60 mutual funds in the whole world for the public to buy commodities. How can you have a bubble when nobody's bought the stuff yet? Someday there'll be a bubble in commodities, but we're not there yet.
There isn't enough supply. Why?
Because there was no productive capacity, and for 25 years. There's been one lead mine opened in the world in 25 years. The last lead smelter built in America was built in 1969. There's been no major oil field discovered in over 40 years. All the oil fields are in decline. All the major oil fields in the world are in decline. The number of acres devoted to wheat farming has been declining for over 30 years. The inventories of food are the lowest they've been in decades. I mean, this is a very serious situation the world is in right now. If we start having bad weather, there'll be people who cannot get food at any price.
What about metals?
Well, it depends on which metals. Some metals have already reacted to, they saw the recession coming. Dr. Nickel went down 50%. Dr. Zinc went down 50%. It saw the recession coming. It might be time to buy them again. I've started looking at the metals, the ones that are down. Silver is down. Silver is still 70% below its all-time high. I've started looking at metals again.
But again, you think that the fundamental story behind the demand part of the equation is still there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, India's still there. China's still there. There are 3 billion people in Asia who want to live the way we do, and now they're working very hard. The last time we had a bull market in commodities, China was still being run by Mao Zedong. Indira Gandhi and Nehru were ruining India. East and West Pakistan had just split. Vietnam had been destroyed by war. We had 3 billion people who weren't in the game last time, Maria. Boy, they're in the game big time now.
Big time. Let's talk a little about Vietnam. I'm hearing a lot of new money going into Vietnam. What are you seeing there? Why all of a sudden this newfound attraction?
Well, it's not so newfound. The Vietnamese stock, the Vietnamese stock market has been among the strongest in the world for the last 3 years, so it's not that newfound. There are 80 million people. They call themselves communists, but they're among the best capitalists in the world right now. They all are the same ethnic group, the same linguistic group. They all speak the same language, so they don't have a lot of the internal problems that some countries have. They've got a huge neighbor, China, which is very successful. They got another friend not too far away, India, who's also successful. So it's at the right place at the right time, and it's a lot cheaper than China right now to do business.
A lot cheaper to live in and operate in.
Yes.
Is that why you're seeing so much multinational money going there, you think?
Well, that's part of it, and it's cheaper than China. I mean, some of the Chinese companies are moving to Vietnam now because the costs are so, I mean, when I say so high compared to what they were 10 years ago in China, some of the Chinese companies are actually moving to Vietnam.
So what are you seeing in the Asian region right now, Jim? I mean, here you are from America going to move, pick up your family and move to Singapore. Give me a sense of what you're seeing on the ground. What's the mentality there? What's the sentiment?
One of the reasons we move there is because there's such a huge ambition and drive, and everybody's working so hard, and everybody's so ambitious. It's just it's a world that used to exist in America, which used to exist in Europe, and everywhere you go, you just see, we want to get ahead. We want to be like the Americans. And they're all working very hard. It's astonishing.
Final question on the dollar. Pretty good rally over the last couple of weeks.
Certainly has been, yeah. I think it's got a ways to go. I'm not selling yet. I hope to sell the rest of my dollars this year, as you and I have discussed before. There have been so many bears, including me, and so many people pessimistic about the dollar that whenever that happens, you usually have a very nice rally. This rally could go on for a year. So I'm watching. I expect it to go on much longer than anybody expects, including me. But it's a terribly flawed currency, Maria. So I plan to sell my dollars later this year.
And buy what?
Well, depending on what else happens in the world, but renminbi, the Chinese currency, the Japanese yen, because it's still beaten down by the carry trade, the Swiss franc, it's been beaten down by the carry trade. Those are the things that are on my radar right now.
And our radar as well. My thanks to Jim Rogers.